So in terms of, so I'm an immigrant or I'm
Hmm.
looking to come over, like what would you advise me? Are there things that maybe I can do on ground already? Maybe I can already do from back in my home country that might probably help me. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a good question. So typically it typically starts with doing the research to know where you want to stay, right? And
Right.
part, like I said, one of the most important consideration is knowing what's in demand in that area, right? So if I know, for instance, I'm going to, if I know I'm a software engineer, and something else to note, I think this is also a very important fact to also consider is when you choose where to move, where to go, um, also be mindful of competition.
Mm.
Be mindful of competition. So I would give you a good example. So if you're a software engineer and you decide to move to Toronto, you are going to be competing with the Indians, the Chinese, you're going to be competing with the Americans
Yeah.
because that's the natural destination for people who move to Canada, right? So
Yep.
every software, some of the best, software developers, uh, will be looking to migrate to a place like Toronto. So the competition is quite high. So
Right.
something to consider is, okay, so where is the next best place, or where is tech? For instance, I'm using tech as an example. Where is it moving to? Right. This is all preliminary research that
Right.
you should be doing prior to leaving. Prior to leaving Nigeria or your home country, if you're not in Nigeria, right?
Right.
You should be looking at where there's kind of like a balance between the competition that you need to endure, so to speak, and then the
Mhm.
availability of jobs. And for me,
Right.
that's one of the reasons I chose Alberta. It's kind of fair, right?
Yeah.
At
Has the
least for
right
my
balance.
profession.
Yeah.
Good, it has the right balance, at least for my
Mm.
profession. It has the right balance, because I know if I was to try slug it out with the HR gurus like Faith in
Ah,
Toronto, Ontario,
oh, I mean, you
um
flatter me.
I mean, if I try to do that, it might be, it might be a tall order. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Nigerians, making waves, doing things, getting good jobs,
Yep.
in those areas. But that's something to consider. So, do your research. Find out what you want to do, right? What you're passionate about. Find out where your career or your chosen career path, right? Find out where it's most in demand, right?
Right.
And then start to find out what you need to do. So I'll give a good example. I know a lot of people who are engineers who want to move this way, and they've done the research and they realized, oh, you know what? I think project management is key. It's a
Mm.
very key certification that I need to have, right? So what they do is, before they even leave the country, they start making steps to complete project management certification or getting the
Right.
designation, right?
Right.
So there are certain people. I'll give you a good example. Even for HR, I know someone who, before leaving Nigeria, what he had done was kind of secured his certification, his CPHR designation before,
Oh,
and which
really?
is something that's,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's an interesting story. It's would get into it a bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's something he did.
Mhm.
It's not very common, right? But it's something he did
Yeah,
even
it
before
isn't
he
at
left.
all.
Exactly, it's something he did before he left the country, and so when he got here, he was market ready, he was job
Mm.
ready, because some of these designations are a stamp of your credibility, so to speak, right?
Right. Right.
If you haven't worked in the system, they want to know that at least you have the credentials, right? If you haven't
Hmm.
worked within, because you would always hear the term Canadian experience, right? So if you haven't worked
Tell
in
me
this,
about it.
if you haven't worked in the system, the next best thing is to have certification that kind of proves that you're competent, right, at the job. So that's something to consider. And there's also people who decide, hey, you know what, it might just be beneficial for me to pivot into a different path.
Right.
I really don't like what I do here in Nigeria. Maybe I really don't like what I do in my country. Maybe I stumbled upon it. I stumbled into it by chance, and I've just stuck with it. But I really want to be a nurse, for instance. Okay, so
Uh-huh.
you now have to find out what you need to do. the moment you have to have a plan for what you want to do, to get certified in that field so that you're able to, practice as
Right.
well. So again, it's a lot of what you need to do is research,
Hmm.
right? Research around the job, research around, the demand for your career path, right? For the kind of jobs you want. Also do research for, the cost of living, because it's
Right.
very important. You want to be able to know, oh, if this is the average pay in this province, can I live a good life, with that as well?
Exactly.
So those are some of the things that you need to consider, prior to leaving the country as well. And then speak to people who have left, people who have landed, before you, right? There are a lot of groups, even in Nigeria, there are people who belong to certain WhatsApp groups, and those groups contain individuals that are across borders. So in Nigeria, in Canada, so you can have those conversations, get a feel for the lay of the land before you leave Nigeria. But yeah, those are general advice that would help you it would help you with managing your expectations when you land. Okay.
Right. I mean, that story of the guy who had his designation before he came here. David, if we enter HR and if we enter like CPHR and all of those things, this video,
Mm,
I don't know, I'm sure it will be like 2 hours.
mm,
So what we are going to do is we're going to have, in fact,
mm.
I'm not even asking, I'm telling you. I'm
No
telling you, friends
worries.
of all of my viewers, so that you cannot
No
say,
worries.
you are going to come back for another session, because
No
that's
worries.
in that one we're going to talk about
Hmm.
like HR, and the
Correct.
CPHR
Hmm.
designation as it's called in Alberta, because
Hmm.
there are a lot of there are a lot of people that are struggling with getting those designations. Like most HR folks I speak to, they're like, I'm still on the journey. Some people will leave it, they will come back
Hmm.
to it, and you have your own. Twalisa. Like you you already have it in the cocoon. It's there. Please cut soap for me, David.
Ah. Jesus will cut soap for you.
I think you
But
already
yeah.
have hay now. Wow. Well, so that's what we're going to do, because we need to have that session and really
Hmm.
talk about it. Like, what were your challenges? How did you study? All of
Hmm.
those stuff, so that
Yeah.
we don't, let's keep this one more general, but we need to go into that HR. And I
Hmm.
think it will be very beneficial, because the CPHR and the CHRP, as it's called in Ontario, is one
Yeah.
big deal. Like HR people,
Yeah.
it's like a hurdle that you have to cross. So
Yeah.
we would really like your nuggets on how you, water the storms and all of that stuff. So yeah,
Mm,
we would have that session. So anyway, just to I think one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, which I think that other people would also want to know, is,
yeah.
were there things that when you came in, were there things that you saw that just that were completely different from where you were coming from, in terms of like more like roadblocks or challenges that you faced when you joined and when you relocated to Canada, in terms of
Hmm.
like settling in, all of those stuff. Maybe even
Hmm.
work in the workplace. Were there things that you would like other people to already take note of, so that they don't fall into those same situations?
That is a very fantastic question. And yes, I guess every professional who moves to a new country, a new setting, right? There's a bit of culture shock you experience,
Right.
right? There's a bit of culture shock. So be it societal or even professionally, right? Career wise, there's usually a culture shock. So I'll tell you my story, and it's a common story, right? So for me, when I moved to Canada, right? So one of the things is I got my job pretty quickly, right? My
Mm,
current job, I got it pretty quickly. So I got it say maybe 2 weeks after landing in Canada, right? But I resumed maybe 2 weeks later.
right.
Um, First thing that shocked me pretty much. Now this is more from the office setting, right? So one of
Right.
the things that shocked me, because I didn't have the time to socialize, right? So
Right.
one of the things that shocked me in the office was, how back home in Nigeria, if you're less busy, you could go to your friend's desk and just chat with him. Hey, hi, how are you?
Yep.
Just have casual conversation. You can't do
Hmm.
that here.
Right.
right? You you can't do
Yeah.
that here. And for a bit, I was like, oh, okay, that's odd, but why is that the case? But then when you realize that every minute there's a dollar value attached to every minute you spend at work, right? It kind of helps you. Oh, it kind of helps you understand why the culture is that way. So
Right.
what I found would happen is if I went to a friend's desk, right, they would feel so, or a colleague's desk, they'd feel like I was, a distraction, so to speak, right? I was like, but
I see.
I'm just trying to, I'm just trying
Yeah, make
to make
conversation.
conversation. I'm trying to, small talk. This is how we do it back
Exactly.
home, right? And then at the point I felt, oh, okay, okay, that's odd,
Yeah.
Another thing that, another thing that, another shock, pretty much that I experienced when I moved here is, um, you know, again, this is my experience. I found that my manager, right, or the people I worked with, especially my boss, he is very, very, very supportive. Like,
Mm.
he's supportive to the point where you ask yourself, this can't be real. This
I
can't be
know.
true.
Tell me about it.
This
Yeah.
can't be, we come from a culture where we come from a society where, um for instance, if you do something wrong, you are penalized, right?
Mm.
And the penalty won't be, sometimes the penalty is something that follows you throughout your career within that organization, right? So
Right.
or it just stains your reputation throughout the organization. Yeah, I find that here, for instance, they welcome asking questions, right?
Mm. Yeah.
They
Of
they
course.
rather you ask them 100 questions than make a mistake than try to fix it,
Right.
because what happens at the end is they tell you, hey, you could have just asked, I would have told you, right? My boss would say, oh, let's avoid the cost of rework, and rework pretty much just means doing what you should have done a second time, right?
Right.
Doing what you should have done right a second time, right?
Right.
So you find that I find that I struggled a lot with the level of transparency that I experienced here. So sometimes even when I made a mistake or maybe I made an error, right, and I catch it, I find it difficult to even communicate it to my
So
boss because of
right.
the fear of, because of the fear of chastisement, for lack of a better
Exactly.
term. But I find that they want to know these things because they want to help you be better.
Yeah. Yep.
They're trying to build you up, as opposed to where some of us are coming from, where if you make a mistake,
Mm.
it's kind of a dent to your competence,
Exactly.
all
And it
right?
takes a while to
To
end the
regain.
trust back. Yes.
Exactly, it takes a while to regain it. There are exceptions, and I'm not saying this applies everywhere,
Of course.
but there are exceptions, right?
Of
So
course.
that's something I struggled with as well. And then generally, just settling into the society, I find that what helped was I had to have like a mindset shift, so to speak,
Okay.
right? Mindset shift being, when I landed, I was looking for Nigerians, I was looking for Africans, right?
Mm.
But to be honest, I'll tell you for free. The first 2 months I landed here, I didn't meet one Nigerian. Not like
Right.
I wasn't out there, not like I wasn't, but I didn't meet one Nigerian. So
Mhm.
it got me asking myself questions like, hey, um, wouldn't it just be nice to be a little bit more open-minded, right?
Mhm.
And then what that has led to is I've made some of the best possible connections, some of the best possible friends, from people all over China, India, Canadians,
Right.
and these people have helped me settle, right?
Mm.
So I guess one of the big takeaways here is just being very open-minded, right? Being very open-minded as to what your expectations are, right? Even when you are looking for, say, your first job, right? Something that happens is, you'd find, most employers want that Canadian experience, but
Right.
you've never worked in Canada, right? So how
Right.
do you get that experience? So you'd find that, you might need to take a dip, you know, career-wise, just so you get your foot in the door,
Mhm.
and then you're able to, accelerate back to the level that you were, or even better. That's possible. So for me, that also happened to me, right? And I struggled a bit with learning from scratch, because yes, HR, you know the theory, you know the theory, you know everything. But because it's a different society, the practice here is different from what we're used to back home, right?
Of
So you'd
course.
find that there's certain things that you need to learn, right? Here, for instance, there's a heavy emphasis on employment standards, right?
Oh, of
Here,
course. Yep.
HR feels a lot more like law here as opposed to
Exactly.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
You find out that as a HR person, you're also partly lawyer as well, right?
Yep.
So it's one of those things you need to be ready. You need to prepare yourself for. And the best way to do it sometimes, like I said, is manage your expectations. You can get job at the same level. Don't at the same level you left back home, and even
Right.
better, right? But there are situations where you can also expect a bit of a dip, right? And that dip isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just gives you the it just provides you the opportunity to learn, right? Get the
Right.
foundational knowledge, and then quickly build on it to get to where you need to be. So
Ah,
that's my advice in a nutshell.
ah. Oh, you are. In fact, too much wisdom. I don't know what to say. David, honestly, I could continue this conversation, but I know that, when we first had this conversation, we're like,
Hmm.
maybe we'll just do 10 minutes and just say everything we need to say. But you see, these things just happen. And then when the conversation starts, you're like, oh my God, there's so much to talk about. Like there's just so
Mm-hmm.
much. And I know that,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely need to continue this conversation, but
Yep.
I'm going to say that we pause on it for now. So I won't say end. I'll
Hmm.
just say we pause on it for now, and then
Sounds good.
yeah, we can come back for session 2 because David, you need to drop all the wisdom so that everybody we need to milk you, we need to get all the knowledge from you. So so yeah. So any final words from you before I wrap up for our viewers? Any final words?
Well, I guess for me it would be, hey, for as many people who are deciding on whether to take that plunge, to move, leave Canada. It doesn't have to be Alberta, but yeah, please come to Alberta. It doesn't have to be Alberta, but for as many people who are thinking of making that plunge,
Yeah.
the best time to do it is now.
No.
The best time to do it is now. I would advise you to do so. And I know that there's fears. I know that there's concerns, but you know what? I typically like to leave people with words of encouragement, in the sense that it all works out. In my experience,
Eventually.
based off the experience of people who I've met here, it always all works out. So please, take that plunge, and if you're able to, right, and then yeah, everything works itself out. Okay.
Okay, fantastic. David, I mean, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Of course, this has been a very fantastic conversation. Like, you have dropped a lot of things that will get people thinking. And I'm so happy that, we were able to do this after talking
Yeah.
about it for a while. I'm so,
Yeah.
so happy. So guys, this is where we're going to draw the curtain for today on this video. But like I said, I will definitely be bringing David back. But, if you like this video, of course, you know what to do. Leave us a thumbs up. Of course, if you like, this is not about me now, this is about David. So if you like all the things that he has said, please oh, my headset is falling off. Okay. I guess it is telling me that, look, Faith, you have spoken too much for today. So guys, subscribe to my channel, share this video, because a lot of people might be looking to relocate to Alberta, and they might need to know some of these things that David has talked about today. And you know how we do. I will see you on my next video. Bye, David, and bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye, guys.
much.
Have a good one.